Good afternoon. Um, I don't really know what to say anymore for my intro because I've had to repeat it like 4 or 5 times at this point. It's just gotten to a point where I need to fix my recordings. Anyways, yesterday I watched a movie called Naza 2 and I quite enjoyed it, but a certain part of the movie got me thinking about this whole multi-part thing in movies and whether or not it's truly warranted, or if it like kind of kills hype or helps with hype with movies, if you understand what I mean. Now, Naza 2 was very, very successful. It made it made some $1 billion in the box office, which was $2 billion in the box office, which was very, very successful for them as a company as a whole, right? But the end of that movie left us at a point where we realized that they couldn't fit everything into a movie, so they had to continue it in a potential next part. Which is, sure, I understand when movies get to the point where they have to expand their movies into multiple different parts to be able to accommodate for a plot. And I'm not arguing with that, because in some cases that may be the best case for movies. But what I'm here to talk about today is not solely on the fact of what's best for movies, if you get what I mean, right? Because a lot of movies such as Endgame, Infinity War, Spider-Man have all piggybacked off this idea of multi-part movies to be able to bank on success of this multi-part series. Now, a main movie that I know that has always relied on this idea of multi-part trilogies, or just multi-parts in general, is the Spider-Man movies. Now, the Spider-Man movies have always been a major cash component of Marvel, or more recently Sony, I would say, because of the massive success and the massive hype that is surrounded by these companies. But in recent times, I feel like the Spider-Man movies have kind of lost their charm through the multi-parts, more certainly through Far From Home and No Way Home, right? So I'll open up a lucky drop for you guys, because I don't have a lucky drops on my account anymore. More recently, Far From Home led into No Way Home, which a lot of people saw as a very, very nice way of continuation from one movie into another. But in recent times, people have realized that No Way Home's rewatch value truly reveals a lot of flaws within Spider-Man No Way Home and the plot that was given. Now, I'm not saying that the plot for the movie wasn't good, It was a good movie with a semi-decent plot, right? Even though a lot of people initially at the start really liked the movie. Me personally, I think one of the major parts that made this part 2 so successful was the cameos and the bringing back of old characters that people really loved within the older series, such as Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, and old villains such as the Green Goblin, Doc Ock, And yes, even though you may say, oh well, how are they meant to make a movie without bringing in semi-relevant characters and stuff like that? I'm not saying that you can't bring in all these old characters. I'm saying that the movie is too far banked upon these old characters, right? Like, if you have the time, go rewatch No Way Home. Right, it's a good movie, don't get me wrong, but when you truly rewatch those movies, you start to realize a lot of flaws and a lot of unanswered things within those movies, which is not the greatest for a movie, if you know what I mean. Well, when we continue on to movies that had multiple parts or multiple settings in which they were made, we can talk about Endgame and Infinity War. Now, those two movies were very successful, partly because it was a new thing that Marvel did, which was letting the heroes of the movie lose a battle to this big bad, and the big bad would continue throughout both the movies. Now, the hype of Infinity War led on to Endgame as one of the biggest successes of 2019. Oh, we're getting old, it's 2025. Getting old. That's another topic for another video. But it majorly led upon the success from Infinity War to Endgame because it was something new that Marvel did to kind of mediate this question at the time of, is Marvel just a one-hit wonder movie where they create movies where the superheroes will always win? In that case being all the previous Avengers movies, where mainly a big bad would be introduced into the movie, get defeated, and then they'll progress onto the next movie, which was a solid point at the time, and I think it has always been Marvel's go-to option. That's particularly why I think Infinity War led into Endgame so well. Now, it's not just the plot and the story that directors have to think about. It's also the hype that the movie causes and whether the fans will actually come back for a supposed part 2 of the movie, or part 3 or part 4. And I think a major franchise or movie series that we can see connotated with this is the animated series of Spider-Man Miles Morales, Across the Spider-Verse. Now, yes, I know the movie came out a very, very long time ago. I don't really remember how long ago, but that movie was one of the most anticipated films to have a continuation from Beyond the Spider-Verse into what's the new one called? Beyond the Spider-Verse? No, Beyond the Spider-Verse, and then whatever the new one's called, right? That movie has had people waiting for years, and by years I'm not playing it off as like some small thing. This movie has genuinely been making people wait for one of the longest times I've ever seen, unless you talk about the Final Destination franchise movie that came out recently. I don't think anyone really expected that movie to come out, but it came out and it still had a pretty decent reception to it coming out in a very weird time, but it was a prequel, so I guess you didn't really have to wait for it to come out. But you know, this Spider-Man movie, the hype for this movie kind of died down at one point. Like, I'm pretty sure the fandom just completely thought the movie was never coming out at one point because of the writer's strike that happened and the multitude of things that happened with the actors that, you know, I'm not going to dive too deep into it, but that kind of impacted the movie. And you know, I'm not saying the hype has fully died down for it, because recently they did state that it was coming out, like, but it gets to the point where you start to realize multi-series movies aren't as easy as people think it is, because as I stated before, it's not just about whether you want to continue on the plot or not, it's whether your movie will make money. And I'm pretty sure this new Spider-Man movie will have no problem making money, because it's a Spider-Man movie and it's been one of the most anticipated movies of all time. Like, if this movie makes no money, I'll be very, very surprised because it's been one of like the main topics for a while now, and I would be quite surprised to see that it earns no revenue. But to be honest, part 2s in terms of hype are very fluctuating in levels. Like this Spider-Man movie, obviously it died down, as I said, for a bit. Like, everybody thought it was never going to come out. That's just how it was for a while. But you know, part 2s also present problems across the board, or part 3s or part 4s across the board. It's just, when does it get to a point of repetitiveness, no plot, or, you know, the continuation just doesn't make sense anymore. For example, a lot of the very famous movie trilogies, continuations, one of them being Star Wars. Star Wars has always been a successful, well, in recent times, a bit questionable, but it's always been a successful franchise in terms of the movies that came out, right? But in recent times, people have started to realize that Star Wars has just kind of become a cash grab, because the more recent trilogy that they released, 7, 8, 9, was by far one of the worst things that ever came out of the Star Wars franchise. It presented the point of all hype but no plot and no direction. As, to be honest, the movies just basically rehashed 4, 5 and 6, because in 7 they went and blew up a planet destroyer. In number 5, which was when she went and met Luke, that was meant to represent Luke meeting Yoda in number 5. And then number 6 was they defeated Palpatine, and then number 9 was somehow Palpatine returned, which is, what? Palpatine returned? Like, think about it. 4, 5 and 6 are literally, no, sorry, 7, 8, 9 are literally reusing the plot of 4, 5, 6. Am I wrong to say that? Because I'm noticing a lot of similarities between these two very separate films that were meant to be years apart and was meant to be a new trilogy. But when I was watching those movies, I realized is it not just basically the same thing over and over again? Like, I get it, Star Wars is a cash grab, directors need to make money. But when you're just reusing the same thing, and then you gain a worse reputation than you had in the beginning for your movie franchise, is it really a win? Because you're not really helping the future of anything, to be honest. Because I'm pretty sure the Star Wars hype has kind of died down after the most recent trilogy, because genuinely I don't think anyone actually really enjoyed those movies. I'm pretty sure the actors in those movies also didn't. Well, no, sorry, not the actors. I saw a montage of the Luke Skywalker actor saying that he didn't enjoy acting in those movies, which was, if the actors don't enjoy acting in the movies, or they think that the movie is bad, should you really be releasing the movie? I don't know. Which is honestly a very questionable thing. Sorry, recording cut out there for a second. I don't know anymore. I think I might need to quicken it up. But yeah, all I'm saying is continuations of movies really need to take into account so many different things, such as plot, hype, money, directing. Cut out again. But it needs to take into account a lot of things, which is why I think very lucky. But all I'm saying is maybe it accounts for luck as well. But you know, if it's good for the movie and you can continue on, it's a very nice thing. But it sometimes relies on how they take it, in what direction. Which is why I think Nozar 3 will be very successful. And the new Spider-Man movie. Anyways, that's all I gotta say. I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.